Today, let's take a look at the Godox ML150Bi, which is a tiny little LED light that has a little trick up its sleeve, and we'll talk about how it compares to the Amaran 120C, the Ray 120C. This episode is sponsored by Learn Light and Sound. We have courses online teaching you how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Link down below. Okay, what is the ML150Bi? It is a compact, easy-to-use LED light. It's equipped with most of the features you would expect of a modern light in 2026. Color temperature between 2800 Kelvin and 6500 Kelvin, so pretty much daylight to tungsten is covered there. You can power it via AC or a V-mount battery using the included plate adapter, so cinema batteries. Really nice feature there. You can manually turn the fan to off, medium, high, or auto. It gets locked to 10% if you turn the fan off, 10% on the dimmer, so you can't use it at full power. And in our test, I left it on auto. It's at 28% right now. Fan's really quiet, so I'm not worried about the fan at all. You can use different dimming curves. There's linear, S-curve, exponential, logarithmic. I almost always leave mine at linear, and that just does great for me. You can control it via the Godox Light app, which is available both for iOS and Android. It's a nice app. It allows you to group multiple Godox lights together and control them all together. You can also pair it with NFC, which is a nice new feature, so there's no more futzing around with trying to pair via Bluetooth, which is a nightmare. So this is really good. You can also use it in a wired DMX setup. If you buy a USB-C DMX adapter from Godox, that is possible as well. Not something I typically do, but available if that's what you need. It does have an ML mount for accessories. It is not a Bowens mount light. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But it does include the MLZ zoom lens, which takes you from 13 degrees, very wide, to 30-degree beam angles, which is a little bit narrower. Pretty nice range there. And then it does have 11 effects, things like TV, faulty bulb, lightning, fire, the kinds of things that you've seen in a lot of lights over the years. Now, included in the kit is the light itself, the MLZ zoom lens, which we talked about, a metal yoke for mounting it on light stands, a V-mount battery adapter plate, AC power adapter with a locking connector, so it does lock, and a semi-hard case. Now, the standout feature on this light, compared to the Amaran Ray in particular, 120C, is the V-mount battery adapter plate. To me, that's a standout. That's fantastic. You can put your V-mount Cine batteries on there, and this allows you to power it. You just do the math in terms of how long it'll last. If you have a 150 watt-hour Cine battery, you should be able to use this light at full power for an hour, roughly, is the main idea here. And again, just for reference, here in this shot, it is set to 28%. We're at f2.8, ISO 800, 180-degree shutter angle, shooting at 23.98 frames per second. So just to give you an idea of how much light output this is capable of. And we're bouncing it off of a 4x4 piece of bleached muslin. So it's not directly on my face. It's bouncing off of there to my face. So really, really good amount of output. All right. The reason I like the V-mount, also going back to that for just a moment, is that I much prefer that over USB. Here's the problem with USB. A lot of the battery banks don't supply enough power to power a light this size. And there are lots of different PD standards. This is a much better solution with the V-mount batteries. Also, here are the photometrics if you're interested in that in terms of how much light output there is. Also, the color quality. And I will say the color quality is good enough definitely for talking head video, which is kind of the bread and butter of what I do. The light is priced at $259 US at the time of this review. Couple of pro and con things I want to talk about. Going back to the ML mount, this is a proprietary mount from Godox. It's smaller than Bowens mount because it's a very small light, which make this light super convenient. So you can fit it in smaller spaces. Love that about it. It is a little bit of a con because you can't necessarily use all the Bowens mount accessories and modifiers that you may already have or own. But there is also an adapter you can buy to go from ML to Bowens mount. I would just be careful about that because you don't want to put really heavy modifiers on that. It's a pretty sturdy light. The body is plastic, but the internal frame seems to be metal and the yoke itself is metal. It should be able to hold a decent amount of light, but the yoke attaches to the light with a 1/4-20 thread, so you don't want to put anything on there bigger than that threaded screw could hold. We did a quick flicker test here. We shot at 59.94 frames per second, 11.25-degree shutter angle, with the light set to 10% on its dimmer, its intensity. We did see some flicker. Now, this is just mainly a warning for photographers that are used to doing flash photography. This light, if you're going to do high speed more than 1,000th of a second or even more than 750th of a second, you probably don't want to do that with this light. This is going to give you some problems. But for video, talking head in particular, even up to 60 frames per second, as long as you're a 180-degree shutter angle, you're going to be just fine. It is a non-issue except for these very niche cases like high-speed flash photography. This fixture would be great for creators that are looking for an efficient way to light their talking head videos, for interviews, live streams, other narrative projects, especially those being produced in smaller spaces. Has the output necessary to be an effective key light like we're using it for here. And if you pair it with the right modifier, whatever that is of your choice, there are a whole bunch of modifiers available from Godox, and we'll put some of the links down below. Okay, how does this compare to the Ray 120C from Amaran? The price is exactly the same, $259 US. The Ray is a full color light, while this is a bicolor light. So this is made for basically lighting, I think of it as mainly for lighting people. Whereas the Ray could actually be used as an effects light using all the RGB capabilities of that. There is slightly more light output from the Godox ML150Bi. I prefer the Cine battery powering option of the ML150Bi, but to be fair, the Ray does have peak batteries, which are basically some really nice kind of unique batteries made specifically for those lights. But you have to buy into that system, whereas any Cine battery that has a V-mount will work with the ML150Bi. You do get very slightly better color quality, goes in the Ray light at 5600 Kelvin. They're about pretty much equivalent when you go to tungsten colored, 2800 Kelvin or 3200 Kelvin. So they're pretty much the same there, just a slight edge to the Ray in 5600 Kelvin. You get a much wider beam angle on the ML150Bi, which is actually really nice if you're going to be using it in a softbox because the Rays have fairly narrow beam angles, so if you're going to use that in a softbox, you really need to use the Amaran modifiers made specifically for the Ray lights because they have an inner diffuser and outer diffuser to take that very narrow beam angle and spread it out. Not an issue on the ML150Bi. All right, so I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So I think what it really comes down to in the Ray versus the Godox is what features are important to you, and hopefully this was helpful in kind of elucidating some of those differences. Get out there and make some great lighting designs, and we'll talk to you again soon.